Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Forward Momentum podcast. My apologies for the delay. My wife was diagnosed with cancer last year. Her baby was born 9 weeks early, and I just didn't really have the capacity to continue doing this while we were going through treatment and taking care of the little one. In and out of hospital with her, blah, 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 blah. However, we are back, and I have a lot of cool people lined up to chat to. It's going to be a lot of fun, but it is with great pleasure that I bring you today's guest, Hanu from Hanu, or Breath Practice in English. I met Hanu in 2013 at an Ido Portal event, and he has actually been a good, deep friend since then. He's had my back in ways that I maybe didn't actually appreciate until very recently in having this conversation. He's a good man. He's been through a lot, and he's not afraid to face his shadow, which is a beautiful thing in what I consider a truly masculine man. We dig straight in. So as soon as we hit record, we went. It was an amazing conversation, the first of many I hope to be able to bring to this platform, and I hope you enjoy. Hey, mate, how are you?
Good, mate. How you doing?
Pretty good. I can't complain.
Why not? Fucking everybody complains. It's whether someone actually listens.
That's true. It's always nice to have someone listen to the complaints.
Yeah. Let me just put my phone on airline. Beautiful.
Awesome.
How's the move?
Oh, yeah. It's good now we're here. It's not my favorite area of Queensland, but hey, I'm an hour from world-class surf beaches and been able to get my boy exposed to that sort of stuff.
Cool.
And I'd much prefer this weather than Victorian weather.
Yep. And there's good deer up where you are as well. Red deer.
I want to get after some red. And there's a girl that works in my local Whole Foods coffee shop that we were talking, and she grew up in Rocky, and she's like, I've got a friend out at Stanthorpe that has a real pig problem.
Right.
Like, nice.
Yeah. And there's deer at Stanthorpe. I grew up from Stanthorpe, in from Warwick, so about 30 miles south of Warwick, small little town called Carrara.
I've heard the name. I used to drive through that area a lot.
Yeah. We had owned the country pub there.
Yeah, rad.
Like 30 people in the town. School was one room, 7 grades, 1 teacher.
Awesome.
Yeah, amazing. Didn't like it at the time, but it is a huge difference to what is available. So, running around outside at school, come across a snake, go and get the teacher, come out with his 22 and kill the snake, and then back to it. So yeah.
How many kids get that sort of experience? Yeah. This is something I think a lot about with my boy, and I watch the way he is, and my mum says he's exactly what you were like, and probably a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't have been put into school so young. No. I should have been left run around in the bush. So I'm hoping we can give that experience to my boy.
Well, down here they have bush school. So it's like a couple of days a week the kids are out in the bush. Yeah.
And where are you again? Murwillumbah?
Mullumbimby.
Yeah. Beautiful. I knew it was one of the M towns down there.
The hippie central. Well, it's sort of more urbanized hippie, I would call it these days. It's not the original hippies, that's for sure.
Yeah, 20 years ago, I used to hang out down there with some mates and a bunch of the local girls, and it was good times, but very, yeah.
Well, even Byron, looking at Byron, is now like the northernmost part of the eastern suburbs of Sydney.
I agree. Last time I went to Byron, which was a couple of years ago, I was like, am I walking through surface paradise?
Yeah,
What's
yeah,
happened? What's happened to this place?
yeah. Well, now with all the development that's going on there, multi-level apartments
Oh
and
no,
shit like that. So yeah, it's
that's horrible.
and changing dramatically, and you've got schoolies that happens there as well. So it's like, yeah, it'll be that it's well, I sort of I can remember at that age of sort of 10 to 13 and going for road trips, and our road trip would be from Carrara to Palmwoods or Noosa or something like that.
Yeah,
And then it was just Noosa was just a caravan park. And we're talking
yeah,
45, 50 years ago. And it was a caravan park, and Byron was the
awesome.
same. It was
Yep,
just surfers and stuff like that.
yep, yep.
And eventually it's going to be all the way from Noosa to Byron, just one conglomeration. So
It really is. You look at how big the stretch of like just the Gold Coast now. Burleigh's getting all of the residential hotel, big buildings going on, and Coolangatta, Tweed. It's just, ah.
yeah.
I really hope like that northern beaches, the surf coast up there, Angourie and Lennox Heads, and I really hope I haven't been to Lennox in like 20 years. Really hope that doesn't develop too much.
Oh well, that hope is gone. It's already
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh
Lennox
no.
Head. I do some work with a friend of mine who's got a food truck business, because he's my massage mentor basically.
Yep. Yep.
So known him for 15 years or so. We met in Sydney. He was a neighbour, and came and trained with us. Petra and I trained him up to be a kettlebell instructor.
Cool.
And he's a surfer, and sort of he's what 65, 66 now, and so him and his wife bought this food truck business as Pocket Curries. So they do markets all around, and they do Evans Head down to Yamba and places like that. So when they need someone to help them out, I've got that background of hospitality, so I go and help
Yep.
them.
Nice.
And it's amazing. Through school holidays, we did Evans Head, and then we did Evans Head. We did a rodeo, the beach rodeo, and and then we did Yamba, and it's amazing. Like young families, but those young families that used to go there for holidays can't, because the amount of money it costs to be in these places now is not a cheap family holiday anymore. It's
No.
being like every other area that's popular.
Yeah. Yeah.
Coffee shops are the same price as Sydney. You,
Oh,
you go in, you can't get away with having something to eat yourself and a coffee for less than $30. So
that's just insane, isn't it?
yeah.
Because like we used to, when I moved up to Queensland when I was like 12, and we used to go on road trips up to Noosa and down to the coast, and it was the same thing. You'd go and stay in a caravan. It was cheap as chips, and go run and muck in the bush and on the beach. Just don't do anything stupid.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
that didn't really work, did it?
no, definitely not. It was always said, but my dad always had that look in his eye, like,
Yeah.
I know you're going to, just don't die.
Just don't come back with an injury, but yeah, nothing fatal. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm just at this stage now going back. So we talked about bow hunting, how I sort of took that up just before COVID, just
Yes,
to give me
yes.
something. Like I had to stop. Probably when we met, I had stopped teaching martial arts because it was that golden cage. I wasn't going anywhere, and the injuries just were holding me back. So now this year I'm going to be 60, and in that time I've sort of made up some ground, but it's sort of I wanted to go back and do some martial arts. So
Yep.
pick up the bow, got good at the bow, but then the reality is you get out in the field, and I go out with a guy that's 20 years younger than me, and
Yep.
you have to, like, the stuff that you've put off going, oh yeah, I'm okay in a training space, but when you go out in nature and you're really tested, it's like, I better do something a little bit more, because otherwise you're putting somebody else's life in jeopardy, and it's a bit a bit excessive saying that you are, but you fall down a rock face, and then there's no communication available.
Yep.
So initially, I went, "Oh, I'll buy an SOS equipment so I can use that." And you need to have it as well. And then I went, "Yeah, that's just equipment. Equipment fails. You've got to be able to look after yourself and the person that you're with as well." So yeah, there's realities that you put off with age, but then there's the ones that you've got to really go, "Yeah, that's okay to train in a gym, but outside, that's a different story." As a kid, you don't have to think about that because you just do shit. So
exactly,
consequences over here, reality over here. So yeah,
100%. And you know what? There's nothing like being out in the field trying to stalk an animal that puts that reality into perspective. And you don't want to be a burden. You don't want to roll your ankle or break something and be a burden to your mate. Yeah, it's real. It is real.
Even in the safe reality of like say a deer, you hang it, you've taken the guts out, and then you're cutting it into sections. So the reality of in the gym doing a bicep curl, for instance, but when you're holding the whole deer like in a position that you would never do in a gym, and you want to keep it out of the dirt, and he's cutting it up and he's going, "Oh yeah, okay," and I'm like, "Oh fuck, this is what real failure is about. This is not a bicep curl."
No, that's right.
Yeah,
and the curls help to a degree, but it's I've always sort of done a little bit of military style training, getting some weights in a pack and rucking around our farm. But the first time I brought a whole deer back, legs around my neck, legs in the pack, all the meat. And I was like, I've got to go 2 kilometers. It's only 2 kilometers. I've done, that's nothing. But with the whole deer, it's very different than a backpack full of weights and bricks.
Exactly. And we do a certain type of training, but it had to, I came back after the first one and I went, I need to do some very stuff that's specific to the action that I'm doing. So for me, I had no problem because last time we went with a rifle. Well, first time I took him out with a rifle, and he'd only shot on a bench, so sitting down with a rifle. Whereas I'd grown up with it, I was used to it. So he goes, "Oh, I don't know. He's a better spotter than me," and he goes, "That looks like, I don't know what that is up there. It's white, creamy color, but it's either a dog or a pig." And we're up on a ridge line at Tenterfield. We're probably 800 meters above sea level or something like that. So it's nice. And so he gives me his rifle. My rifle, I'd bent the scope the day before, so I had a lighter rifle with me, which I wouldn't use at distance. But so I put mine down. I took his rifle. And he's looking through the glasses and he goes, "I think it's a pig." And I just bought his brand new rifle up, had a look through the scope, which is not set up for me. And I've gone, "Yeah, that's a pig." And I've just automatically loaded the bullet, shot it, dropped it. And he's gone, "That's my new rifle. I haven't even shot anything with it yet." And I went, "Oh, sorry. Well, now you have." And it's about 100-meter shot standing, which it's the hardest.
Nice, yes.
And we got there, wasn't there, and then so you've got the escarpment, and I went, "Okay, well, we got to find it just to make sure it's put away humanely." And we walked about 10 paces. It was done, and it was a shot, beautiful shot through the shoulder, through the lungs.
Lovely.
But it was a cream pig. No other markings on it, and so healthy. And I don't eat pig, mainly because of my gut test said don't eat pig, and when I do, it just gives me indigestion. But he's like, "Well, we've got to get down 200 meters of 1 and 2 grade," and I went, "Well, I don't eat pig. if you want it, you got to carry it. I'll carry a rifle for you." And he went, we'll come back to it, which means we ain't coming back. So,
well, the foxes and the wild dogs got a good feed.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's certainly it's something that I've come big full circle to, because I grew up doing when I was 8. You know, it was nothing to be on your push bike with a 22 and go to the shop that was the service station, corner store, post office, all in one, and just buy ammunition from them. There was no licensing. And I've driven past the cops. There's no cop in this town, but there's one that roams around in the area.
Yep.
And he'd drive up and go, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going out to shoot some rabbits." He goes, "Whereabouts?" Did you tell him? "Oh, yeah, it's a good spot." He goes, "Can I get a couple off you when you come back?"
Yeah, beautiful.
I'll be at the pub checking up what's happening there. My father's pub. And I go, "Yeah, come back." You give him a couple of rabbits, he'd be sweet. Stay out of trouble. Okay. All right. Yeah. So yeah, it's now coming back full circle. It's quite interesting because so many regulations at the moment. I'm just at this stage doing my application for firearms registry to become firearms instructor.
Oh wow, awesome.
So yeah, I became a range officer at the local pistol club that I go to.
Fantastic.
Mainly, I say this without thinking about it, but they're all old guys.
Yeah,
I'm now seen as an old guy, but in that club, probably one of the younger ones that's there. None of them train. None of them do anything healthy. They all drink.
Yeah,
and so I took it on because it's not paid for. It's a small club, so if you don't do something for it, it's going to disappear.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
And like bow hunting, like I was used to long arms, but a pistol at 25 meters takes a lot of work and a lot of time. So for a year, I've been training with it.
Amazing.
One of my teachers for apnea survival, he's ex-state, federal, and border force. And he was a firearms instructor in there, and he said, "Yeah, look, you can spend time, like all the older guys there have red dots on their pistols, so they can actually shoot at 25 meters." And I went, "It's not realistic, you need to be able to do it at 25 meters for that thing." And there's other competitions that you do within there, but yeah, it's again, it was just something that I enjoy training. I enjoy a process of getting through there, and it's quite interesting. So yeah, it's just, again, it's another type of training, basically.
It really is, isn't it? And it's a beautifully detailed skill set to acquire.
Yeah,
there's so much more than just looking at a target and squeezing that trigger.
Well,
whether we're talking pistol or long arm.
Yeah. So
bow.
Yeah, we're trying to get this small club to be more diverse in the competitions that they have.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you look at, what's a good example? Taron Butler, who's the guy that trained Keanu Reeves for his last 4 movies.
Yep.
He's a grand master, I think 8 times, 9 times over. There's no one like him that can shoot. And he's not, you would think, a fit looking guy. No, he's a big guy, but he's a little bit rotund, but amazing, that like the perception that you can have, because it's manipulation, like we did with the Ito. You're manipulating something else that has an object manipulation, basically.
Yes, 100%.
But with it has its own propulsion, so you have to be very specific about how you perceive things when you're working with them. So, and then to move with it. The other day we were at the range. It's very humid down here, as you would feel up there. Yep. And the older guys are going, you do 15 shots, 3 lots of 5, and then you go out, check your target, patch the target, and come back in.
Yep.
And a new guy goes to me, "Well, it's a bit demanding on a day like this." And I said, "Imagine this. It's 25 meters out and back. So what you do is you sprint out, check your target, you sprint back, then you do your next shot. I want to see what your shot's like on the 15th one, because you'll be shaking, you won't be able to control your breathing.
Yes.
That's a reality. And I said, so when you do a moving competition, all of these factors come in, and they're already affecting people while they're standing there in a safe area, blocked
Yes.
from another position. So it's such a controlled situation. Somebody's watching, a range officer watching how you react with everything. Nothing's rushed. You can control your breathing and all of these different things. Yet they're stressed in that situation. So yeah, it's as we said, it's just being able to manipulate the outcome. This is only the first stage of it, and they're already worried about it. So,
yeah, and worrying about the humidity and all that sort of stuff. I used to set up a couple of different targets out at the farm, and I'd do like a 200-meter sprint, come back and see if I could still hit a bullseye at 30 meters. Almost never.
I was
just going to say, I was going to say the practice was not so much trying to hit the target of the bullseye, but getting the breathing sorted before I took the shot. You know. You go.
I went to Slovakia a couple of years back, and where my wife's from, and she knows a guy there that's a fair bit of a celebrity. I mean, he's a well-known comedian, but he's also an actor as well, and his wife is as well. And he goes, "Oh, look, have you shot before?" And I said, "Yeah, a little bit." And so he goes, "Well, I'm going to organize a day at the range with you, with a couple of guys." The couple of guys he brings now they're working as, well, they were probably 10 years younger than me. And they were at the highest level of any terrorist squad then. But previous to that, they were special cops. So, you know, they had a changeover from communism to democratic, right? In the 80s. And what happened was that all of the people that were put in jail through communism, some of them were let go. And then the other ones in jail were upset they didn't get let out, so there's a big riot. And these were the guys that were sent in to clear the jail. And so they come along and they're like big belly, and they've gone, okay, well, we've got this rifle, which is similar to an AK-47, but made in the Czech Republic. It has no furniture on it, which means just open sights. The other one's got all the stuff on it. And they go, we've got this shotgun, and we've got these pistols, and a huge box of ammo, and we'll just go through this. So
beautiful.
You got 100-meter targets. You've got 3 positions. So you're either going to be in prone position on the ground, easiest position, kneeling, or standing. This is how we train it. So going through with those guys, and this other person was brought along who was, I think he was the head of KPMG or whatever, but a big firm, big international firm. So he was
a private contracting firm.
Yeah, because he was a CEO and he'd never shot a gun in his life. So they were spending not much English. So we're just going through, and they're going, okay, well, you clearly look like you shot because you can stand up and you shoot. So went through that day, but there was no one else on the range. Beautiful outdoor range. There was a guy sitting in a container, which was the office of the place, and he was like, rules here, no drinking, wear your earmuffs, and few safety details. But it's amazing how that was what Australia used to be like.
Yes.
And then fast forward to now. And look, I have no problem with regulations and firearms regulations whatsoever, because there's a lot of idiots, and that's why I'm going to this, to be able to teach firearm safety. Because even as a range officer, people come in, guys that are my senior, and they're so used to doing stuff that is not safe. It's like, and I said to someone the other day, don't put anything up. I've told you not to go forward of this line. And this lady said, oh, but it's not a firearm. I said, I don't care. It's not going past this line until I say so. And it's simple things like that. You know, people, it's okay not to give way at that sign because I'm pretty sure there's never any traffic coming along that way. Well, At some time there will be. So yeah. And it is. For me, it's coming from martial arts background, it's fairly, that's how it's done. That's how it's done.
Yep. And we need it as a society, and we need it in general. There's got to be some boundaries, but it's not about. I feel like in this country we just mollycoddle everyone.
No.
Maybe on a firing range that's good, because I've seen the same thing when I did my safety courses, and I'm a member of my local club. I've seen some idiots on the range that just don't listen to the range officer, don't even know how to cycle a rifle, and you're like, just slow down.
Hey,
listen.
Something.
Yeah, oh my god. Hey, should I look down the end of it? Why is it not? Jesus Christ! Have some idiots.
Some guy the other day, I've got a round stuck. I went, okay, pass it to me. I said, did the round go off? I'm pretty sure it did. Can we just get somebody to poke down the end of the barrel? I said, no. No. I can take it apart. And then when I take it apart, the round hadn't gone off. And I'm going, there you go. And look, like you said, we need specific rules. And I'm used to working within a method, as you are as well. And it's the main reason why I left Wim Hof, because I went, I've got some issues. We're talking to my instructor originally, who's the first instructor for Wim Hof. And I said, look, I've got some issues. There's people that came on through COVID that did Zoom classes to become instructors, and those people aren't following the protocol or your manifesto, which is a 21-page manifesto of how to teach. You're happy to go after people for your IP and legally go after them. I said, yet when people's safety and welfare is at risk, you're telling me, what can I do? Well, I'm not in charge of what you do. You need to get rid of them, as you've done before. It's so hard. I went, yeah, well, I've been with you for 5 years, and I'm not going to continue to be with you because there's a storm coming. And I've been in the situation where people have low blood sugar and they have fainted. And I've been there to catch them, because it's a one-on-one thing. Whereas you've got these Zoom instructors that have got 10 separate things going at once. Some of them don't even have any training or teaching background. So how do they know what is coming? So it's the same as fighting.
Yep.
You're better at fighting because of how you set up, but what you also observe from the other person. And as a trainer, that's what you are. You're this and you're this.
100%.
And so I just went, this is my stuff as well. I went, are you being triggered by how other people do stuff that you're not in control of? You're only in control of yourself. So in the end, I've done 5 years of therapy over my latter life to deal with my earlier part of growing up. So I went, is this your stuff, or is it other people's stuff that you have no control over? And that's what it came down to. And I went, okay, be happy to leave. Because you're messing with your own head with other people's stuff. So yeah.
And that's an important point there. Like, we have to be willing to have integrity towards ourselves at times, right? It's not just about a general integrity, but also there's so many people in this coaching world right now that don't have the balls or integrity to say, up your game, do better.
Too worried about what other people are going to say, and too worried about the financial part of it. And if you're only ever focused on those two things, you can't be able to say to yourself, are you doing good enough? Are you checking in to see whether I'm just doing this to please other people or just for the money? And people don't get it with me, where I go, okay, so you paid for a workshop, that's the entry fee. The real payment to me is that you show up and and listen and do the stuff and admit when you can't do it. That's okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is nothing wrong with saying, I don't know. I don't understand. I can't achieve this. What are the steps to then help me get to those points?
Yeah. And it's stuff that I had to go through as well. Look,
Me too.
I would be a hypocrite to say that I'm not that person, because I have been that person where I'll go, I just got to do it because that person's doing it and I want to be able to do that. Whereas when you've got mileage on the clock and a pass, you have to deal with that shit, whether it's physical or whether it's mental. You really have to go, okay, I'm doing the physical training. What's stopping me? Is it mindset? Is it the stuff that I carry along from my past? Whether that, some of my teachers for martial arts were abusive.
Yep.
They were bad teachers. They yelled and screamed at you. And having grown up from a broken family and having an abusive parent, that's what sort of, I would straighten my back up and just put my nose to the grindstone and do whatever. But that's with no respect for that person. It's just your ego going, I need to be able to do what other people. Whereas when you have a good teacher that gives you that support and goes, okay, well, you're not doing what you need to do. Instead of just going, because I would use the excuse of going, I like to fight. I love the competition side of it, but I have a problem with form and all these other things. And the teacher would go, well, that's because you don't have to use the form. You're not using the form. You're just using a battering ram. And there's no skill in that. There's heart. There's obviously heart, but there's no skill in it. So yeah, it's something that at late taking on jiu-jitsu, and especially taking it on with a friend who I respected. I initially started with him being 20 kilos heavier than him, just using strength.
Yes.
And then I had to take myself aside, and I came back to him and I said, can we start again? And I have to apologize to you as a friend and as my teacher, because I've disrespected you, because I'm using just strength and I'm not learning anything. I get into that point where you're pressuring me and I just have to win.
Yep.
And that is.
And when you have a 20 kilo weight advantage, you can do that.
Yeah. That's the fact that I'm training him physically. So I know his weaknesses. I massage people, so I know points on the body where it's going to be painful. And even to the point where he's gone, you need to do a knee ride on this part of my leg and then transition over. And I went, well, that's a good place, the adductors. You just slide the knee or the shin down the adductor.
Nice little slice. Yeah.
So I did that once or two. I just put my hand, because I massage him as well, and I put my hand on him and he's you can't do that. That's private information. And I went, so's your black belt. But again, it's not right. And so I went, okay, I need to pull back from that. And so I think it's learning about yourself. And the problem is that we don't learn soon enough, or we don't have the right teachers soon enough when we're kids.
Yes.
To go through this stuff. And especially in the breathing stuff, how I came about that was to recover my body from past injuries, the Wim Hof stuff and that. And then I sort of, through observation of different people I'm taking through, saw how that affected people. And I went, okay, well, the breathing is too much for some people. So that's changing people psychologically and bringing up trauma. So I changed that before I even become a full-fledged instructor. Because between Petra and I, we had hundreds of people to put through. So I had to do 10 unpaid workshops. Workshops normally about 20 people, but I did 14, I think, and had such a broad cross-section of people and great feedback, like professionals giving me feedback, other
Beautiful.
Psychologists, hypnotherapists, clinical hypnotherapists, my therapist, female therapist, and she was helping me at the time with with stuff, me processing personally, but also with my business, how I communicated with people. And because I have that difficulty of socializing initially. So I was never a drinker, but it was something that I drank to socialize because
Interesting. See, that you never
relax.
would have struck me as a person that had trouble socializing.
Well, the same in work. It comes over then as a dickhead. I know this, so you'll do this.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Whereas going through the therapy and learning how to communicate correctly, and then because I had in training over the years, I had practiced empathy. It's like, I understand what you're going through. Okay, very practiced. But into the breathing stuff, you had to have real empathy, and it was a steep climb. That was for a while, and so I worked with it in therapy, and at the same time, it was hugely rewarding because
Awesome.
it gives you an insight. Well, you could say you're looking into someone's soul, because it's eye to eye contact, and you see what's going on inside that person.
There's a lot you have to face in that, internally and with some other people's emotions. And
well, it was a continuation of therapy for me.
Awesome.
Because you have to. It's all in. You're all in with that person.
Yeah.
And so I grew through that, and it was great.
Fantastic.
But it also showed me where I was lacking. So I did the Wim Hof stuff, and then practiced that for a while. And then I needed to dive a bit deeper, and especially on the functionality of breathing, which I never looked at. I didn't think it was a problem that I had. And so I looked at Oxygen Advantage, and Patrick McEwen, who's the head of Botanco and Oxygen Advantage, was coming to Sydney. And
I've just been reading about Botanco's work.
So I went and did the course with him, and there was a couple of interesting people on that course. Dean Gladstone, what else? The other guy, one of the other guys was a Wim Hof. So there was 3 Wim Hof instructors there on the I think it was 4 or 5 days, and on the first 2 days, I think we were doing mostly desk stuff, going through the paperwork and that. And then we did some land-based drills with breath out holds. And I'm like, we're just walking with hold breath out. And I'm like, I'm starting to get anxious. And I'm like, not an anxious person. Like that was what set me aside in fighting. I wasn't the best, but I never got nervous because I've done it in the street, and I've done it in the ring. And so I'm like, just looking at myself, and I'm looking around to see if anybody's looking at me straight away. So that's your ego. And then we finished, and then he said, okay, back to normal breathing, and you can just stand and you can have your eyes closed. And I've closed my eyes, and I had a full flashback of being a 4-year-old, because in the swimming pool, local swimming pool in Dalby, and being held under the water by a 12-year-old.
Oh, wow.
So go back a bit. My mother had taken me, we moved just close to a pool, like a block away from the pool, even closer. And so she takes me to the pool one day, and my mother's 18 years older than me, so there's not a big gap. Takes me on the smaller springboard, throws me into the water, and says, swim to the side of the pool. So I dog paddle to the side of the pool. And in my mind, as a 4-year-old, I can swim now. So I used to sneak out and get into this pool all the time. But this day, I'm trying to mix with the other kids. I'm hanging on the side, walking down the side of the pool. And this kid stands on my shoulders. So in the flashback, I'm looking at the situation as a third person. And I had the same feeling going on, like I'm drowning, and feeling in my stomach and my panic, and I'm looking at it objectively as an adult and going, you could have just swum down and out of it. And I go to Patrick, and I went, I had something to say. Seems a bit weird, but I'm going to say it anyway, but just quietly to you. I said, this just happened to me, and feels sort of fucking weird. And he goes, can you, if you're comfortable with it, can you bring it up at the Q&A later today? Because this is exactly what I was talking to you earlier about in the class, where in a breathing situation, when there's trauma attached to it, it stays with you forever. And you might think it's a problem, but it's in the background all the time. So fast forward, I talk about it, and then I've done some therapy on it as well. And but to this day, it's still affecting me in certain ways. So
of course,
I then went, okay, well, typical me. I go, well, I'm going to do something fucking harder, and so I get my teacher who was teaching at that stage was survival apnea, which is a guy, Augusta Vega, is an ex-health surfer. So he has the system, and my teacher got together with him. He became an instructor, and then he went to Augusta. Well, let's improve it more. So he worked with Augusta, and now he has apnea survival in Australia, and worldwide he'll do it. But he's such a good teacher and such a smart guy, Jason Rice, that he's talked to me about cold water immersion. He goes, I want you to come to the course. And I was the first one that said to him, I said, well, one of the first people, I said, he did a 2-day thing on the Gold Coast, and for some reason, one of the days was cancelled, but I'd already flown up from Sydney. And he said, I'll take you through one-on-one.
Awesome.
So we're doing stuff in the pool, and I'm like, I realized straight away at what a good teacher and how he got me relaxed into a situation. And I said, if you ever do this as an instructor, I'm going to be there because I believe in it. So fast forward, he sets it up, and I've got about 6 months to prepare, and it's a 5-day course, and it's hands-on, it's hard work. One of the prereqs then was 2-minute breath hold in the water, static breath hold.
Yep.
And so I'm in Sydney, I'm working on it. But as you know, you give people homework and then they make excuses not to do the homework. So I get out like 2 weeks out from it, and I ring him up. The phone call was a hard thing to do, and I rang him up and I said, look, Jason, I'm sorry, but I'm not coming because I'm making stupid excuses to myself not to train. And I'm doing my breath holds in the sauna with it off, which is a quiet, safe space, and I'm barely getting 2 minutes. And he said, no, come. He goes, you've got a lot to offer, and just come along. I'll look after you. We'll work it out. And
awesome.
I didn't think he'd look after me in the sense that he's going to give me a free ride. I said, I just don't want to interrupt other people's learning and stuff like that. I don't want to be a bother. And I said, keep the money. And he said, no, come. So I go the first day. The first thing we're doing is the static breath holds for 2 minutes in the water.
Yep.
And the first one was shit. And then we continued on. And at the end of it, I got 2 minutes 45.
Beautiful.
So we went through, and that's one of the prerequisites. The other prereq was, at this stage, it wasn't that hard. It was a one breath, no fins, swim underwater, which was difficult for me. But fast forward to 2 years later, the new updated course, 3.5 minute breath hold, static breath hold, 50 meter, no swim, no fins, one breath swim under the water.
Yep.
And a few other prerequisites. I passed all those prerequisites except the 50 meter swim.
That's hard.
No, I didn't pass the breath. I got 3 minutes on the day, and it took me 6 months of training specifically with him and a group in Benora Point.
Yep.
At the little 25 meter pool. And so it forced me to do the work, and I got the 3.5 minute breath hold. But that 50 meter swim underwater, like I've got Petra walking along the top of the pool, giving me cues, looking at what I'm doing. And as soon as I'm moving underwater, I can forget it. Like with a 3.5 minute breath hold, you would think it's only going to take you 40, 50 seconds to swim, if that, the length of the pool. So you should be able to do it. As soon as I'm swimming, control stroke, and then anxiety strikes. And I'm at 25 meters and my stroke goes all to shit. And then up at 30 meters. So it's something very real that most people don't realize. Like I looked at I've got a memory back to when I was 2. And all my fights finished in the first round and the start of the second round, because intrinsically I knew you don't have a gas tank. Don't have a gas tank because you're breathing out of your mouth. So, so with everything that I've done now, I had to go back to, say, the kettlebells. I had to go back to that, put my ego to the side and go, okay, you work with a lighter weight, but you're only going to breathe through your nose.
Beautiful.
And it changes a lot of things. When I started doing jiu-jitsu up here, I went to the teacher, and I said, look, I'm only going to do this if I can work to a certain level where I'm only breathing through my nose. And when I'm not, and I become competitive, is it okay to take myself off the mat? And he said, oh, do whatever you want to. I'm teaching breath and cold exposure at his gym. And he goes, oh, you do whatever you like. He's very relaxed. And I went, you're the teacher. If it's not okay with you, then I'm not going to do it. No, you'll be fine. So yeah, fast forward, he's not my teacher. He's not suited for me, because I need somebody that has a structure and authority. You know, and I train with somebody else now that's a good teacher, and same thing. He'll be saying to me, we haven't rolled for a while. We're only doing side control, and now we're doing a little bit of roll afterwards. Your breathing is off. Calm down your breathing. We're not competing here. Calm the breathing down. And it's true. As soon as I'm not doing it for a period, you slip right back to where you were. So it's definitely something that has to be done all the time. You really have to be focused on that, because it's the recording button for everything that's happened in your life, good, bad, or indifferent. So
and it's such a powerful thing. So I want to say something, and this is not to blow smoke up your ass, but it is an appreciation of the depth of character that it takes for you to implement those things into your own practice, because so many of us won't. I need to breathe this way. Hey, sensei, is this okay? You know, like, it's just epic. Through your journey in the breath, are there any other things that you've noticed, health issues, physical issues, and limitations that you've seen either arise or you've been able to move past because of this exploration?
It's more awareness. The breath gave me something that I was like, for instance, I love to research and study, and I always had this thing until I met Petra. I had this thing that I love to study what I love, okay, and which is physical stuff, like meeting Ito, for instance. The biggest part of that was that the guy, not for what he could do physically, but what he knew academically. And to me, it's like, wow, you can structure all of this part of your life, but you're such a well-read person, and you can bring that forth at any point in time. I remember him being at our place in Sydney. We'd trained downstairs, and then I cooked him a meal, and he's come up and he's going through my bookcase going, yeah, that's a good book. Yeah, that's shit. That's all right. Nah, there's better ones. So I didn't take it personally. Actually, somebody that was there who's a friend of mine, they took it personally. I said, you're fucking like a sugar cube, man. It doesn't matter if he doesn't like what I don't like. You know, there's things he does I don't like either. But he can honestly say, he's in my house, like, with the invite through the front door, I give him the ability to speak to me honestly. That's what I expect of anybody.
Beautiful.
Not, blowing smoke up my ass. Oh yeah, everything's great. You know, the most important thing for me was that I fed him and Odelia, and they both went, that was amazing. To me, that's everything, because it's like teaching people with the breath and that awareness. some of the things I've seen in people that I truly respected as people in society. So first responders, nurses, any person that gives everything, because very few of us do. You know, we get asked to do someone a favor or to help them out. Oh, you know, I don't know if we can do that today. I'm pretty busy. It's like, really? This is humanity. It's like it might cost you something. And my neighbor, he's a lovely guy. He rings me yesterday and he goes, the truck's broken down. Could you go? I've got his spare key. Could you go into my house, into the garage and get my spanners, please? Or can you get this other guy? I said, well, the other guy's definitely not here. And I'm here. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Yeah. And it's so appreciated. That's the real payment, is the fact that you can do something for somebody. But with the breath work, it's sort of, I could be reading and studying, and before I got fully into the breath work, and Petra would go from the other room, what are you reading new? And I would look around to see if she's looking, and she would go, I'd be a kid with my mouth open and just breathing through my mouth. She'd go, shut your mouth. So it sort of brings awareness to that in everything that I do now, where I go,
beautiful.
Okay. And I do it by myself. I also do it when I'm teaching people, because it's not one thing for me to correct somebody in their form on something, but I've got to think that they're looking at me all the time, and I need to be on par with what I'm doing properly. And that wasn't the case. If I think back, way back, I don't know, let's go back 20 years, me as a PT, I'm guaranteed that there was stuff off with that, because I remember sparring. I was working at Fitness First in Platinum in Bondi Junction. Yep. And we used to go, I'd take the trainers over and we would go to Spring Street Gym, where they had a full-size boxing ring set up, I think, for Danny Green at one stage. And so I would take the trainers over there and we would spar. And that's all fucking ego. I've trained to do this, and it was easy for me. And then one day, one of the trainers from there, a Kiwi guy, goes, oh, I wouldn't mind sparring a bit. And you could see he's a fighter. And he goes, hey, I used to do a bit of Muay Thai, but I'm not training now. And I looked at him and went, yeah, you're not selling snow to a fucking snowman, mate. And I thought that. I didn't say it.
Yeah.
I went, yeah, I'll spar with you. You know, you're 20 years younger than me. Yeah, no problem. He's a national champion in New Zealand. Moved to Australia because he couldn't get anyone to fight him anymore. And my best man, who lives in Lismore and who I hunt with, I'm training him for his first boxing fight. And he's the only guy in my whole career that's ever come close to knocking me out, because I showed him how to do it. And so he's in there sparring first with this guy, and this guy just rips him and in the liver and drops him. His feet flick out and he lands on his knees. And I said, there's a good punch. Very specific. And that good guard, he's just come out under his elbows. And so I went, I'll spar with him. And so, because he'd only sparred hands with him. So we go in and we're moving around, and he gets me into a corner, and he's like 4 shots off each hand into the body. And I sort of used to being kicked in the body. So, okay, yeah, good punch. That's okay. And we went at it pretty hard for a couple of rounds. It was not sparring. It was a fight. Yep. And then we finished, and I had to he kicked me in the hip, right on the glute minimus, and so I couldn't even lift that leg to kick with. He'd hit me in the knees and different spots. But we come out, and the other trainers are there like, fuck, that was a war. And I said to him, geez, I hate to see you when you're actually training. And he looked at me and just smiled, and he goes, you're not bad for an old bloke, are you? But again, all through that, breathing out of my mouth, I'm surprised that I haven't got a broken jaw. I look back on old video, I would have my mouth open all the time when I was fighting. But I always saw what was coming, But
Brings us back to that word, perception.
Yeah, so moving forward into not fighting, because it was, once I started with Edo, I was like, yeah, you've got a lot of stuff to fix up. But the breathing, that's probably what I should have started way before that, is that. And so it gives a good perception, and most people that take it on need to do that over everything, because that breathing is probably the main, all of the stuff that I've looked at and studied says that creating that acidic system in your body through poor breathing is going to create a whole heap of stuff. So it's possibly the bigger part of when you're training high intensity that's going to create problems in the body. And who knows, another thing is diet. So, I did, when we first met, I was in the process of 5 years of strict vegan with Edo.
Yes.
In Brisbane. Is there any vegans here? Petra and I put our hand up, and he goes,
yes, I remember that. And
he was going to say what he'd said a month before in Sydney, vegans are weak. and it's the stuff that I look these days is like, people do a restrictive diet. They go from eating all shit to restricting, and they see improvements.
Yep.
Fast forward to the stuff that I've studied on lectins and oxalates and stuff like that. I have to think that 5 years created some problems for me externally, joint wise, shoulders and knees, because of the oxalates and the buildup of that stuff in your system. So, yeah, it's experience, it's learning, but with the breath stuff, you can get a very quick change almost immediately with people, and
seriously, almost immediately.
Yeah, working with fire rescue, and spending time with these guys that have given everything, and they're past the stage of this is the last thing that they can do. And some of them have come along and on the day said, if I wasn't doing this, I would have committed suicide. And so that's such a powerful, to be in a circle of people and hear that from someone's heart it gives me goosebumps now, because it's such a gift that somebody is putting everything in your hands. They're trusting you to take it to that point. And there's not everyone's a success story, but there's enough that it should be available beforehand. And for me, when I first saw this, I went, this should be in your college. This should be in the college of every first responder.
Yes.
To give them the skills to help themselves, because they're only at the end point where they come to somebody and they're off work sick. And then they're offered something, and it's often medication. Medication is not the solution. It becomes part of the problem.
Yep.
So it's a huge gift, and being Sam Parkhouse, who came to me from fire rescue and initially talked to me during COVID, he and I would meet up and talk about it. He goes, I had some success with Wim Hof, and I went, okay, look, knowing that you and I were going to talk, I've gone and studied what PTSD is before we get here, and no, Wim Hof breathing is not, because it's something that can push people over the edge and have them have a reaction. I said, so functional breathing, taking them back to what's normal. I've already, at that stage, even before I become an instructor for Wim Hof, I changed the breathing and made it not so push, so not so super ventilation. It was more breath in functionally, a pause, and then letting it come out, teaching people from Botanko how to clear their nose, because they're mouth breathing all the time. So you have to get them back to that. And that made a big difference, like taking these people in there. Every morning first thing we're starting with is breath work. And I'd already have observation of these people online. And then that round circle meeting on the first day. And then I would be with them, and they would come to me and think, I'm doing an ice bath for an hour. No, we're basically doing talk therapy, expanding on what I've already seen, because I'm lucky enough to, as a trainer, to soak up information from people. So I take a few notes here and there, but mostly I have a file and I can go, like I said, I have a good memory.
Yep.
And I take in information, and that's how I learn. Like, I think Petra and I have been to so many certifications that she'll see me writing out the manual. She go, "Are you going to write that out 2 or 3 times or what?" And I go, "How I'm absorbing it." She goes, "Well, no, you're not. You know how to soak up information. You know how to regurgitate it.
Yep.
It's not going to help you. It's just going to frustrate you." So I've sort of learned how I learn, and I think it's one of the most important things that people should learn as instructors. Learn how you learn.
I agree.
Because everybody's different, and for me, I'm hands-on. Once I've done something or I've been somewhere or whatever, I have that stored in there. And with these fireys, they come down to me for an hour, and I have the information that I've already had with them for an initial session. Then I've got the round table talk. And now I'm here with them by themselves, and I can dig in fairly deeply because I've also done talk therapy for myself for 5 years with it and multiple different things. And that's what works. The person not going back and making you regurgitate shit that triggers you, but find out why you're triggered. And so it always comes to the breathing. I said, you guys, I had a good friend of mine who died from cancer, fiery. And that was also the reason I was all in. I went, he left 2 young daughters behind. He was my senior in the last karate I did. He actually gave me this, which is a Bushido cross from Bob Jones Karate. And that was given to me as a white belt, purely because of how my ethics, my values were. Like I wanted to do things the right way. I wasn't motivated by getting somewhere, because I said to them, I don't want to grade anymore. I'm quite happy to train as a white belt. I'll line up with the white belts. They would always put me to black belt. I never wore a gi, shorts and t-shirt, until they said, one of them said, I want you to come to my new gym and I want you to grade from white to black in one day as a demonstration. And so I trained for it, did it, and it was on a 40-degree day in Sydney, and I'm in a gi, and I'm like, the girl beside me who's 16 or 17 faints. And
no.
I know how you feel. And then afterwards, we have, in that particular style, you had before 9/11, you had the second dan grading. It was called the League of Blood. And it's why you get a dragon at a second dan. And and they said, oh, well, 10 rounds you sparred for contact for black belt. Then they said, well, we want you to spar for the second dan guys. So you can spar. They got to do 30 rounds, 32-minute rounds, no rest, and you every round. And at the 25th round, you get 5 minutes. And then you come in with the most senior, your senior, and they beat the shit out. So, I could, but I'm doing it in tie shorts and a singlet. I'm not going to do it in a gi. So, fast forward a couple of years, and 9/11 happened, and I had my own gym in Surrey Hills. And I said to my friend, well, I want to do that second dan. I said, but most gyms were told, especially full contact, not allowed. So I said to my gym, my insurance, we're doing it. So I think I was 33 when I did that. I just finished working at a club at 3 in the morning. It was 8 in the morning. And I was like, phew. But that's when the breathing came up again. It was like, we got to I heard them call the 13th round, and I'm like, I'm done. And so then you start to go, well, how am I going to manage through this? So we have to show control. They're allowed to go full tilt. We only had 16-ounce gloves on. And so I would get clipped and I would go to the ground. I would breathe a little bit, and they said, tell you, get up, and I would get up. And so I got to the 25th round. and I was going out with a doctor at that stage, and she was going, how you feel? You know, do you want some fluids and stuff like that? And I said, I'm fine. 5 minutes and I fully recovered. We come back, and my friend who's died, he's my senior. So he comes in. He'd already come in at the 10th round with bag mitts on, punched through my guard, broke my nose. And I've just, in the video, I've gone, pulled it out. Okay, let's go. But then I'm breathing through my mouth the whole way through.
Yeah.
So we get to the 25th round and had the 5 minutes rest, and I've come out. I've gone, your gloves, you haven't taken them off. So after 25 rounds, they're an extra kilo heavy.
Yep.
And
Jesus.
And so we've gone, he's got into it. I've dropped him a couple of times, and we've finished up, all done, passed through, and I've gone, I could do that again. The guy who's like 5% body fat and probably about 22 and an athlete, he's on a drip, getting fluids into him. And then they've gone, let's go to the pub. We're going to the pub to celebrate. No, I'm not drinking. I'm not drinking, that's for sure. So yeah, it's that breathing was always there, and it's probably the reason for a lot of the injuries that I had with knees and shoulders. Skiing was one of them for the shoulders as well, but it shows up, and it's something I have to be very aware of. The cold, I don't have any problem with the cold. Like, I'm in the process of trying to get a minute breath hold under the cold water of like around 1 degree. It's only water, not ice. And it's just, you would normally have the breath to control how you manage, but you don't. So it's not a big breath in, so you don't create a lot of pressure. I worked out that I had to have earplugs in, because as soon as that cold water, which I should have known, you know, when I was working security, people go to sleep. We used to go and get a straw, fill it up with ice water, and drip it into their ear. They wake up straight away. And just awake. So I sort of started to get these brain freezes at like 30 seconds, and it would just pull me out. Again, it's adaptation, like any training. So, you know, if you're not adapting, you've got to have a look at what you're doing, especially with cold water immersion. A lot of people, it's the latest and greatest. We'll see how it is in 5 years.
Exactly how I think. Like,
so
there's definitely merit to it, but how much, the dosage, but it always comes down to that sort of thing, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, the way that I work with the guys, especially guys that are older, and some of them are very fit, but as soon as I say to them, "Oh, we're not doing ice bath afterwards. You'll do it before. Do it before training." And they go, "But how do I warm up?" And I go, "The same way you always warm up." You know. And they do the training session and go, "I feel fucking amazing," because your heart rate stays lower, your body temperature stays lower through it, and sort of towards the end, especially in this humidity, they're just starting to get a sweat, and they go, "Wow, amazing!" And so you're changing the perception, and it's also, some of those people have a lot of problem with it initially, so they think when they're hot to do cold, because it's the easy way out. But you always do it the opposite way around. So that
like that approach.
So for me, there's enough good research out there now. Like Wim Hof, they put a bit of money into it, but you know, I looked at some of the videos with guys doing podcasts, and one of them, I forget his name, goes to this professor and he goes, "In Wim Hof, we learn not to shiver." And the professor looks like, "You fucking idiot." Didn't say anything, just that look. And he goes, "You shiver on a cellular level. Even if you're not aware of it, it's part of what we are. You may not feel that you're shivering, but you are. So no, you're not learning not to shiver. And if you can, show me the study." So it's
fascinating.
A lot. It's also a very good diagnostic tool, which I found mostly with the fireys, is that we would have these conversations and we'd go very in depth, but the cold will bring out the shit that you hold back.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
With them, some of the things I've seen, like a full one particular guy was, you could see he was totally stressed about it, just talking about it. And I said, that's okay. You know, there's certain things that we do that I have learned from myself to do that makes it easier. So
Yeah.
a lot of people don't put their hands in. Well, 132 proprioceptive points, there's a reason for that. But I always trained it with hands in. So just put them on skin, cover them up, they're fine. Into a certain depth, because most people go to their shoulders and keep something safe. That's just being a human.
Survival mechanism.
Yeah, but get the vagus nerve in, calms you down. Get the head right in, that even calms you further down. So it's more you're dealing with mindset and psychology with showing people how to do it. And there's also physiology. I had one lady that was 75 come with her husband. She get in and she went to here, and this is a lady that went on a cruise to the South Pole and jumped in the water. She goes, oh, they put a rope around me and we jumped in. I just wanted to get a photo of doing a bomb. It's a 75-year-old lady. And I went, why'd they put the rope? I said, because in case you can't get out, they're going to pull you out. So she goes, oh, I was okay with that. I said, okay, but how long were you in? She was, I was in and out. Okay.
Yeah.
So
and the rope was a lifeline, subconsciously and physically.
Exactly. Yeah. And so she goes in and she says, contacts me later. She goes, I had a headache for like 2 or 3 hours afterwards. And I went, okay. So I did some studying. I reached out to some people in Europe, and it comes back that the difference in vasodilation on the neck create a problem within the head.
Pressure regulation thing.
Yeah, for some people. So I said to her, look.
Fascinating.
I said, what I'm going to suggest, it's up to you. You're not forced to do it, but I believe it'll solve the problem. So she went in. I said, you've got to go head under. You've got to breathe out, relax, and then come up, relax, take a breath in. Go back. She'd come back the second time after that 3-hour headache and done another one and got a little bit further down, but she had serious headache that she needed to go to hospital afterwards.
Oh.
Yeah. And so she contacts me and says, you know, I'm gonna have a scan. And I said, it's not going to show anything up. This is what I've read.
Yep.
If you're willing to try it out, I'm sure it's going to change it up. And so she comes back. She goes all the way under, head under, thumbs up, no headaches, no problem.
Yeah.
So it's experiencing these different things. You know, I had a person just have their arms in. I looked at her and I went, something's not right. I went right beside her. She stood up. I said, you can come out now calmly, keep your breathing calm. She stood up and then full dead faint. Grabbed her under her head, laid her down, got Petra to get some honey for me. She's already come back. Husband's there. What do I do? What do I do? I said, you do nothing. I said, I've got senior first aid. I'm looking after her. It's okay. And then she sat up. She's fine. I said, what have you done in the last day that you'd never done before? Oh, well, you know, my husband, we just finished a 3-day fast. First time we've ever done a fast. Last night, I said, what did you eat? Oh, we had a big meal, this and that. And I went, okay, well, it's probably something you should have told me, but it's okay.
Yep.
Don't do that. So if she would have been in a group ice bath, she would have died. And this is my point where I'd observe these things. It's like, let's say, no cardiovascular issues. I've had a guy come with a pacemaker in. He's standing in front of me, and I said, I believe I sent you a form saying what a contraindication is cardiovascular. I believe that's cardiovascular. Oh, it's not a problem now. I went, I said, okay. I said, I'm confident with what I can do. We've got a defib unit there, and in you go. And so he's fine. I end up he's from Perth. I end up setting up a setup for them at home for his family. Awesome. And they also all of them had Raynaud's. So the circulation issue, fingers and toes.
Yep.
Oh, we've got that. I said, yeah, that was another contraindication. I said, but it can be trained. Really? Yeah. You do variation, hot, cold, and you get it happening. So all of this is from experience, but also sticking to the method. This is
Yes.
you've got a lot of people, even at our instructor training, there was people there that had no teaching at all. Oh, I've taught a yoga class. Are you a yoga instructor? No, just taught. And I went, wow, I thought there was measures in place, like a filter system to stop this, but it wasn't. So
There really should be.
yeah. And then you go to our instructor training, which the last day going up the mountain where the weather went to shit. There was winds, high wind gusting, and it was black ice. I had good crampons on. I was fine, but the instructor called it just at the last bit, and people lost their shit. People lost their shit. Those same people had lost their shit in the breathing.
Mm.
We had pretty hard push breathing, and there was wailing and people losing, just hilarious laughing and whatever.
Yeah.
But up on the mountain, when they called it, people broke in their groups, and then not enough instructors as well. Lucky we paid for a mountaineer to do photos with his wife, and he was helping us bring people in. Otherwise, people would have died. And this was sort of kept under the carpet.
Yep.
And but it's now come out. The guy that wrote What Doesn't Kill You, I think, about Wim Hof, Scott Carney, he reached out to me and he said, I've heard that you were in this group. Are you willing to talk about it? Because some people aren't. I said, I'm happy to talk about it. It's the truth.
Yeah.
And so we had 7 people that had to be observed by rescue.
Wow.
We all sort of continued, but Wim's son sort of kept it covered up.
Of course.
Puts threw someone else under the bus, and that was the other reason. It's like, okay, well, if it's just about money, because through COVID they went, we know you're having it hard in Australia, when we had to pay our 400 euros for registration for the year. And I went, there's no workshops, there's nothing, Well, we'll let you off for half, but when you start making money, you could pay the other half back. And I went, no.
Wow.
So it's such a money thing. Oh, well, if you're not registered, then you're not an instructor. I said, you don't get to take back the education.
Yeah.
I said, I have that for life. That's mine. Just because I don't call myself a Wim Hof instructor, I'm okay with that.
And you know what? That allows you your own creative license to actually, cherry pick the better bits.
Yeah.
And what you've seen in your experience, because you've obviously got a vast experience with lots of people. And that's a good thing, I think, a lot of the time.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly it.
In the right hands, maybe it's a good thing.
Yeah. A lot of people wanted to be the celebrity. That was the real disgusting thing about it. It was just people wanted to be the person that's entertaining people or entertaining people, as I say.
I love that term. I'm going to use that. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, enter the realm of the fitness influencer. Oh my God.
So it hasn't changed much. Well, with social media, it's changed a fair bit. It's ramped up there, but it's pretty interesting to see different people, how they work through different things. Like some of the people through Edo that we came through, some of them blow up huge on Instagram, and they're doing a specific thing. And then I'm back in Sydney. I get asked by a woman that I'm massaging, and she goes, "Oh, I'd love to do stuff with your wife Petra, and she still does stuff with Edo. Yeah, does she teach? She teaches a class. So I'd love to be able there, but I don't want to do online stuff." And she said, "Oh, I reached out to another person. Do you know this person?" I went, "Yeah, I do." And they went, "Oh, well, they only do online." And I said, "Yeah, but they're happy having 100,000 people followers on Instagram, so they make money from that." And there's some skin in the game, but it's person to person is where it's at. That's where you have to have skin in the game. So
agreed. And you know what? In my opinion, that's where you actually affect a deeper impact and change in people's lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's more soul involved.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I do a little fun group here once a month at a guy that Petra trains, and I do the breath and cold exposure with him. But he was a typical, I don't know, doing some TRX training and stuff like that. He'd come from Sydney. He's a fairly fit guy, but he had actually taught running workshops and had big running groups in Sydney. Lovely guy. And so I had a spare ice bath that I have at his place. And so I go once a month and we do a big group. And it's amazing when people allow themselves to open up and to take instruction and to give you that ultimate trust. That's the real payment for doing this.
Agreed.
The ability to have somebody to trust you and not be a dickhead and be an egomaniac that goes, oh, I'm just amazing, because I've worked in that environment as well. In Bondi Junction at Platinum Fitness First, it's like 60 trainers on the floor. And you've got me going, yeah, how do you luckily having a friend that was a PT manager there that allow me to be under the radar, because I'm not doing any of your stuff. I don't like any of your stuff. It's bullshit. And you're selling people memberships to get their details, to take money whether they come or not. So how do you justify the rent that you're charging us? Oh, well, you've got all of this equipment. I don't use it. And I use this much space on the floor. So better that when I left there, I said to Petra, we could go to another gym. I don't want you to be in a Globo gym because it's soul destroying and you really love doing
disgusting.
This. Yeah. So we can set up. We only need, 20 square meters. That's it. Both of us can work in that space. That's a learning process as well with your better half being a trainer in the same space. We're both different demographics and different ways of teaching. So it's like, you had to learn to be respectful to the other person's space. So very, very interesting. There's a lot of growth in it, and I'm forever grateful for meeting her and growing with her. It's 15 years now we've been together.
I was about to ask how long it's been. Oh, wow.
Yeah, just had our wedding anniversary, 25th of December.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah, so it's great, really good. And she's my teacher in things and I'm her teacher in some things. So it's very much
an element of that.
Oh, it's difficult as well. With the cold stuff, she was like, right from the beginning, she went, I've come from a cold country. I don't want you to teach me, because there's stuff there. And after we had floods here and she was here by herself, both floods, and she got PTSD, and I was like, the ice bath got trashed. Took me 3 months to get another one.
Jeez.
And it's funny, this is what happens in your body. Like the first day I got into it, and I'm sitting there with my hands like this, and I looked down at my hands and I went, the fuck are you doing? I've never ever trained with my hands out. And I got caught and I'm like, put my hands down. But this is how your body works. It's like, well, you're managing it, but there's something being held back. So with her, I was like, okay, enough's enough. I'm going to take you through and you're just going to suck it up. You're going to take the instruction, and you've seen thousands of people go through, and some of those people even recently that are doing better than you've ever done. So let's cut the shit and let's do it. And so took her through. This is after she's had an 8 to 10 hour sleep that night. And she goes through. She goes, wow, I get it. She goes inside. She sleeps for 4 hours.
Wow.
That drop in deregulation in her system just was, and I see that all the time with the fireys. It's something so much so that we now have, so the people that pay for it are the insurance company for the fireys, the ambos, and the police. And so
interesting.
So they've got to the point of going, as long as I endorse the person individually, they get an ice bath, which is an $800 ice bath to be able to use at home. And, you know, some of the people that have come through went right from the start, I hate cold. I'm not doing it. I don't care what martial arts that guy's done. I ain't doing it. And I go, you're not forced to do anything, but there's levels of doing things in all training, and just show up, give it a go. And they come out and go. One guy who came back for a second time, and he said, you know what, I left the last time and I have to apologize because I felt that I needed to do it. And the change from just wholehearted, and the guy's personality is similar to mine, so I understood really well. And the change from the end of that thing and him standing up at the end going, look, I've got so much from everything, but I'm not doing ice baths. Just not doing. And then we have a catch-up one-day session. So we normally have a 5-day retreat with them.
Yep.
And then 4 times a year we go to the college and we do a one-day catch-up where everybody from all 8 retreats can come. And
cool.
Like-minded people. Some people have doubled up on different retreats. And he's turned up and he's gone to give his talk about how he's progressed through doing different things. And he comes to me first and he goes, I'm not taking the piss, but I felt that I needed to come today to do an ice bath. Oh, good. Let's see how we go.
Amazing.
And afterwards he goes, I need this. You're right. And I said, I don't need to be right, but thanks for saying. And he goes, it just stops everything where it is for me. I'm like, it's not a slow down, it's a straight, it's a stop.
Yeah.
And I have to just focus on what you've taught me. And that cuts out the noise, and then I can reevaluate and do stuff like that. And he didn't get an ice bath me to write the form for that day, but he sent me an email and he goes, can I have that form, please? And I went, yeah, sure.
Awesome. I wonder if it's a part of that sort of role that it's very hard to be, or maybe the ice bath brought him to the present. You know,
it's the thing that I've noticed with it is that it's breath for absolutely. Whereas most people are in their prefrontal cortex and they're going, I fucking hate the cold. My hands hurt. This hurts. Whatever. Totally in their head, in the prefrontal cortex. Whereas the cold is something that's very old. We haven't evolved past it. Everybody thinks we're such an evolved species, but we're not. We have a dive reflex that's affected by cold and water. And you have that brainstem, which is really attached to breath. So getting that brainstem into cold water and the vagus nerve, that calms the system down. If you get the dive reflex in, even more so. But it's having somebody there, eyes to eyes, with you saying, breathe this way, because otherwise you're in fight or flight. So you pull them straight out of it. So things I changed was the hands, because that was never taught to us. Because when I went to Poland and I'm in a waterfall for 10 minutes, couldn't put my clothes on. I had to have people dress me because my hands were gone. So that was one thing I implemented straight away. The other thing was, we were told, just get in, control your breathing. Nah, that's not. If I go into with holding my breath, then I'm already up here like this. So I go, breathe out, hold your breath out, get all the way in, and then calm breath in. So it overrides another point of a natural instinct. So you override a few of these natural instincts, then you've got somebody in a position where you go, okay, now relax your body before you take the breath, and then take a breath in. And so how I taught myself to do that was I would go in the water, get the water to touch my septum. I could not take a big breath in. Still catch myself flaring my nostrils, but it still has to be a slow breath in. And all of these different things brought people to a point of being able to be calm there. And I knew that there's a time where it's painful, And it's normally between 60 to 90 seconds. In COVID, it went to 2 minutes, where the body is in pain. The veins are closed down sharply in the arms and the legs.
Yes.
And it's painful. And then it's like, if you keep with a calm breathing, it just goes away.
Yes.
And so it's just getting people through that stage. They go, oh, how long am I in there? And I'd go, when you're calm, then we'll start the clock. They're like, oh shit, that could be whatever. Don't get another prefrontal cortex issue. It's like, get out of that and just focus. So I just get them to mirror me, because I can see if they change. And it's just people are too much, society is too much in their head.
We're all in our head now. We think we're above the natural physiology that we've evolved to actually be. I was so I had my boy in the surf a bunch. We did about 4 hours in the water on Saturday. And yesterday morning we went out, crystal clear, beautiful waves, and he's just gotten to these. He's not even 3. So he's very young to be exploring these things. Most people sort of look at me like I'm crazy, but I expose him to stuff in a gradual way. Yeah. We're out in the water. The set comes through that was a little bit bigger than we realized, and a lip, smacked him in the face.
Yeah.
And I could see him start to gasp, and like, it's something I've been working on. Yeah. Don't gasp when your face goes under the water, Jackie. You've got to hold the breath. You've got to close your eyes. Yeah. And he's freaking out. I said, "Look at me, Jack." Yeah. And he could, which was beautiful. Looked me in the eyes. I was like, in through your nose, slow exhale. Yeah. Breathe with me, Jack. And you could see his system just go, yeah. And then the next wave smacked him. Yeah. And I opened my eyes and I looked at him, and he was just looking at me, and his breath was there. And I was like, we're done. And then I was actually able to say to him, like, this is what you've got to get used to in the surf, my friend. Like, you have to come back to your breath. You have to stay calm. Yeah. And for a 3-year-old to look at me and go, all right, I understand, but can we please go in now? It's like, yes. Yeah. You've shown me that you can be calm. Let's go in.
when we moved up here initially, I said, I'm not teaching martial arts anymore. And so people had talked about a friend of mine that's a massage therapist, like an older brother for me, and he talked to people, he's done Muay Thai before. And then I get these 8-year-olds that want to do Muay Thai. And I said to Petra, I went, you know what? I don't want to do this. And she goes, you're not going to be teaching the way that you've always taught. It's different now. You've got all of these different things that you teach. And I said, yeah, cool. So we get these kids come along, and I'm going. So one's done Muay Thai and he's a little bit on the spectrum as well. And he's left-hander. So it's like, okay, I know I have to teach him a different way. So I set up, when we're doing it on his non-dominant side, I set up in front of him so he can copy me. And, so his dad brings him along all the time. And the other 2 kids, they're all personalities, all different personalities.
Awesome. And
so I go, okay, we're gonna do just very basic stuff. We're working on balance and stuff like that. 6 weeks comes around, and excuse me, we're supposed to be learning Muay Thai. I said, yeah. Well, we haven't thrown a punch or a kick, and it's been 6 weeks. And I went, good work remembering that. That's good. Why? I said, go. Okay, I'll show you. Stand on one leg. Okay. Set the timer. Okay. Bring the leg up to this point. No waving the arms. Keep your arms down. Just work on that foot balancing. Okay. You're on flat ground. Nothing's moving. We'll get to a minute, and it's like, and I'd already been teaching them how to breathe calmly. And they started to talk, and I said, no talking. Calm breathing. Remember the calm breathing we've been talking about? Do the calm breathing. And I said, you feel that burn in your legs? Yeah, that's okay. It's all right. Just keep calm breathing. The timer goes off. Okay, now you know what's going to happen. Put the other leg up and stand and do your calm breathing as soon as you feel it. So we get down, and I said, okay, stand on the leg that you felt the most confident on. And then I want you to lift your leg up as high as you can and hold it there. They all lift the leg up to a certain point, and they all fall over. And I said, and you hope to kick someone that's moving? You can't even hold your leg in.
Love that.
And I said, so now show me your punch. They showed me the punch, and I went, and I've got my hand, just tap them. Well, if you throw this punch, now you've left yourself open. Okay, so that's the reason why you haven't thrown a punch or a kick. Now, do you understand what consequence is? No. Okay, well, let me explain it very easily. Your actions determines what's going to happen to you. So, one, you've got to be calm with your breathing, first of all, in everything that you do. And now I'm going to show you true consequence. So, come over here. I lift the ice bath. I've lifted the lid up, and I said, okay, remember the calm breathing. Put your hands in. But we're going to have our hands like this. Put your hands in. No talking, breathing. And then they start giggling, and then it's, and then this. I said, what happens to the breathing? That's a consequence of not doing the breathing and being calm. I said, so I have my hand in like this the whole time, watching them. And I keep talking while I'm talking, and I keep going, and I'm talking. I said, now talking is hyperventilation. I'm not even controlling my breathing properly. And then I take it out, shake it. I said, that's been in there now for 2 minutes. I said, that's the consequence of training. Okay, so you have adaptation. So, yeah, look at the fathers. So I took them from that couple of seconds into 8-year-olds being able to do 3 minutes and controlling everything and doing everything. But 2 of them are surfers as well. So, you're, like you said, you go into the water, it gets a little bit big for you. You're never going to go back to that. So this is what you have to understand. As long as you can control yourself, you're going to enjoy something. And I said, I come from an arid outback sort of thing. I said, the first time I saw the sea, I was about 7 or 8 at Talabudra. And I was in awe. I was standing at the side of the beach looking at this expanse of water where I'd come from. It rained maybe every 3 or 6 months. So, yeah, it's something that you need to protect and value. And it's amazing that with this throwaway lifestyle that we have, that kids don't understand what the value in training and training at a young age and having it as part of your life. The friend of mine in Sydney who started me doing jiu-jitsu, David Freeman, and his son's birthday is on the same day as me. So he would come. Dave and I were training, and I'm teaching Dave, who's black belt, and he also does micro cement balls. He's a painter and finisher. So a lot of stuff with a trowel, very good into a ball, good stretched out. So like 5% body fat. It looks like he's cut to shreds. But I'll get him, he can do a pull-up and all of this stuff. He's done some basic training, very flat feet. And I go, okay, so we're going to start you off and just stretch you out, basically, get you strong. So I'm getting him to do a skin the cat with a hold. For reps. And his son comes to training with him. I said, you're allowed to do whatever you want in here. This time is your dad's, so don't be coming up and asking him to entertain you. Entertain yourself in here, but the consequences, if you hurt yourself, you can have a cry, but it's on you. That's it. And I'm like that with all kids in the gym space. And so he watches him have another set of rings out low but a little bit high for him. And he goes, can you bring them down low? And I went, no, jump up if you want to use them. So it's not a big jump. And then down track, people see a video of him doing an ice bath. And that's amazing. He decided to go in for himself. I said, yeah, it's great for kids to see their parents struggle.
Yes.
We love it. And we really value it. So if someone says they can't have someone look after their kids, just bring them on. Bring them on. I'll deal with it. It's okay. And they go, oh, he's amazing, at 9 or 8 or maybe 7 that they're doing an ice bath. He only come up to his waist and he's like, and I went, that's nothing. That kid can do, he got to the stage with a hang doing 50 reps, skin the cat.
Jesus.
straight arm. He's got hyperextended elbows and knees, flat feet. But this kid earned that himself. Fast forward a year later, and I'm training his dad. I go down to Sydney every month, and I'm training his dad. And he comes with him this day, and I said, "No, you're doing jiu-jitsu now and competing. Let's see you skin the cat." Couldn't do it. And I said, "Come here. We're going to have a chat." I said, "I know you like competing." I said, "But those expensive basketball shoes you got on, how would you feel if you lost them?" He goes, "Oh, I'd be really upset. I'd probably cry." And I went, "How would you be if you bought them with your own money and you lost them?" I'd be even more upset. I said, "Well, be upset about the fact that you earned something with grit and determination and the ability to pull that movement apart yourself.
Yeah.
And now you've lost it."
Oof.
That is the difference between cost and value.
Yes.
That value in that exercise is good for your jiu-jitsu and good for your strength, good for your mental toughness as well. I said, and you've lost it. If you can get it back, I said, but you place more value in something that costs something. Your shoes cost something. I said, so it's up to you. You know, I went down to him and he goes, "Oh, I was down for doing massage." And I go to their house to have dinner, and he goes, "Oh, I got kicked in the foot at soccer," because he competes in soccer. He's pretty good, and he's pretty good at basketball.
Yep.
And I said, "Give me a look at your calves." Went through his calves. I said, "Have you been rolling your calves?" Because he has a full program that he should do by himself.
Yep.
And he goes, "Oh, I roll while I'm watching TV." And I went, "That's not how I said you should do it. You need to roll and focus on what you're doing." And it was his birthday, our birthday.
Yep.
And I said to Dave, "I'm going to have to roll his calves, and it's not going to be nice. He's going to cry." Mother's there. She wanted to kill me with a statement. But I went through his calves and he's crying. And I said, "If you were my kid, you wouldn't be playing, because you are 11 and you have plantar fasciitis.
Oof.
That is ridiculous for your age." I said, "But
It just shouldn't exist."
I said, do you know why?" I said, "They've got the composite wood floor down the hallway." I said, I said to Dave, "Listen," I said, "walk down bare feet down the hallway." And he's down the hallway.
Yep.
I went, "He's heavy on his heels. He's got flat feet. He's not where you are at the moment, but he's going to be there. And he wears big padded shoes to play basketball on a hard court, and he plays soccer on a artificial turf. And it has a plate in the shoe." I said, "So he can smash his heel down all the time." In that position. I said, it's just the mechanics of the thing.
Yeah.
I need to see this and that person. I said, "Yeah, but they don't deal with movement."
No, they don't. His foot's no longer a spring; it's a paddle.
Yeah. I said, so you have to change it. So he learned his lesson. He learned consequences really well, because he doesn't want me to do my forearm down his calf again. Yeah. His mother still hates me, but Dad's appreciative of it. And he's an 11-year-old that gets up at 5:36 in the morning and does his stuff.
And look, though, the discipline, the life lessons that kid has already learned, and hopefully, this is one of the big things for me. We all, not all of us, but a lot of people just want to mollycoddle their kid, and their value systems are out of whack. And we don't teach kids to learn and think of the world in terms of principles. You teach that kid that principle of cost and value and earning something.
Yeah.
Those principles go to every discipline you undertake.
Yeah.
And we just don't treat learning and teaching that way anymore. I was thinking back to the breathing point. You said it should be in any form of first responders initial protocols, initial learnings. And I think we should be teaching kids in preschool that stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think in all of it's very quick to put kids into competitive sports, but it's coming now, but it's still up in that higher grade of athletes. But so you've got to, kids are going to go through this initial stage, get their system so acidic and create these problems, because I see it all the time. I see kids competing at 13, 14 years soccer up here, and it's like, okay, you already got a problem with your knees. You can't touch your toes, and you want to go to the gym because they all want to go to the gym and buff up,
Yep.
do the. And I say to them, that's just dumb muscle, and you're not gonna you. It's not if you're going to get injured, it's when.
It's when. It's 100% when.
Yeah, so it's pretty funny, and yeah, I'm very much about they've got to do it, but they've also got to come to it themselves as well.
Yeah, definitely. That's it. And like I've had people sort of talk to me like, oh, you worried that you're pushing your boy into things too far. And I'm like, I don't push him into anything.
No,
He asks me to take him out in the surf. He asks me to take him for a bike ride at the skate park because he sees those things. Because I live by example. I try to. I
but it's
up
also the fact that a lot of parents want to be the friend of the child, and it's okay to have a great relationship. And for me, I value this great relationship, but I also see the fact that okay, we want to save you from mollycoddle is a good word, but we want to cotton wool this child so they don't have the problems that we had. But I don't see them as problems. Yeah, I had a dysfunctional upbringing, but a lot of my teachers were my male role models for good things in life.
Yes.
Now the teachers are like, wow, yeah, I've got to have a working with children's certificate to work with kids because there's some sick fucks out there. But I say to people, go and sit and watch a teacher first before you throw your kid into them. And the good example here was I watched the kids class for the jiu-jitsu, and they're like going crazy. And my friend Dave comes up from Sydney to take a class, and he goes, they're not lining up. They're leaving the mat whenever they want to. It's like, I said, you're the teacher. Tell them. Because they're not being told by this other teacher. And I know the other person does exactly that. I said, there's got to be a good warm-up, interaction. You're in charge. This is what they need to do. And, this other teacher comes in and he's going a really good sort of animal movement warm-up sort of variation, which was great. And he's going, now we're going to do cartwheels down the mat, one side and then the other side. And here I am nearly 60 and I'm doing it. Not great on one side, but okay. I know the principle of it. And half the people went, I can't do it, so I'm not doing it. And he went, you're going to try. That's it. I went, fuck you, there's no question. He's told you to do it, do it.
Yeah, you do it. You try, you do your best. It doesn't matter what the result is, you just bloody try.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're doing such a disservice to the youth of the world because of this. So I don't know what it is like in other countries, but I feel like in this country we are just setting the youth up for failure.
Yeah. It's available. It's part of the selection. Okay, well, I failed at that, but how hard did you try? Well, I didn't like it, and it's more that society has become so much of what I like and what I don't like. Well, the stuff that I have to do for training, I fucking hate it, but I have to do it because I don't want to be my wife or anybody that loves me to be wiping my ass when I'm 80.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's value what you value in life. Like for me, one of the things I look at is surfing is that you've had this all your life, and what you're gonna go, I'm too old to surf now. My friend who lives up here, massage teacher and friend, he's a surfer, a lifelong surfer, and I said through Christmas, I said, we're going to go to Brunswick River and we're going to do some of the apnea training in the river at high tide. So he comes, he's a bit dusty from the celebrations the day before. And I said, okay, so what we're going to be doing is the water's about 2 meters deep, and he's taller than me. So it's only going to be over his head this much. I said, so you're going to have a weight in each hand. You're going to take a breath. You're going to go off the steps into the deep water, and you're going to walk as far as you can. If you need to drop the weights, come up, take a breath, go down, get them, walk further, keep going. The stress is going to build and build. And if it's too much, leave the weights down. Just tread water until you recover a bit, and then go down.
Mhm.
So he's got a set of weights. There's another person exactly the same weight as him, but shorter, using the same weights. They've already done their session. He goes in, and I've walked almost to the other side, and I turn around and go to the other guy. Where is he? Oh, he's back near the stairs. He hasn't made it 5 meters out from the stairs. And I go back, walk all the way back under, and come back up, put my weights on the stairs, and I see he's looking for a weight. I see it straight away, pick it up. I sit on the steps and I let him duck dive a few more times. Didn't listen to the instruction. And I go, I've got your weight. Comes in and he goes, oh, I'm fucking done. I'm done. And I went, you got some shit going on, man. And you surf? I said, you are clearly not managing your breath. What happened? He goes, well, I walked 5 meters. I accidentally dropped a weight. So I didn't put him down on purpose. And then I couldn't find it. And I went, the instruction was, if you drop the weights, leave them, dog paddle, tread water, whatever you need to do, breathe, even go back to the steps, and then come back. I said, but you didn't listen to the instructions, which is your problem for a start. So the next day he comes. I said, okay, well, you heard my instruction. I'll repeat it again today. Drop the weight. So I give him 2 kilos lighter each weight, which is Petra's weight.
Yep.
I said, again, drop the weights. So I'm now his buddy. So I'm watching him. And he's trying to swim like this under the water with 5 kilos in each hand. I have to fucking nearly choked sucking in some water. And I come up and I get him up. And I said, drop the weights. I said, you're not going to swim underwater. Even if they're 3 kilos, you're not going to swim. No. Drop the weight. Goes,
oh, goodness.
But you could see the stress on him. He's like, you can't control it. You have to deal with it in a good frame of mind.
Yeah.
It's one of these. We do it. We've done it on Kira Beach. Been in there where there's 2 or 3 rips down out into water that's over your head, and you're walking. There's no visibility. You're just going. Come up, get a breath, go down, and we're walking one way 20 minutes.
Yeah. Oh wow. Cool.
Come out and have a rest. Go back in, and one way the rips are against you, and then you go down. You hit a hole, and you come up. You barely get your lips out of the water. But I tell you what, it teaches you a lot about yourself. Yes, there's safety. You've got to have a buddy. Be aware, but yeah, it's training that for me is like it's not hard physically on your body, it's hard mentally on your body because of CO2. And in surfing, you if you got to duck dive 20 times to get out the back, then you're sitting there and you're already peaked with your CO2.
Oh yeah.
And then you go and get a wave, and then you get a 5-second hold down. You're like, I'm gonna die. So yeah, it's great training, and it's for a country where we're surrounded by water. It's stuff that needs to be taught to people.
I agree wholeheartedly. I look at now what I see on the beaches compared to when I was a kid. I grew up. Luckily, I was taken to the beach a lot through my youth, and then even more so when we moved to Queensland. And I was always taught. Everyone in my school that I went to with my high school, like grew up on Stratty, everyone knew how to read the water. Yeah. Everyone had a little bit of they were accomplished.
Yeah.
But I've been looking into this apnea survival stuff with Augusta Vega, and I'm really, really keen to dig into that deeply.
Yeah.
Where was I going with that? But I noticed, so I had a 20-year hiatus of surfing, been back into it in the last couple of months. And the first few times I got, wipe out, the panic. And I was like, hold on, Jesus, just calm down. And there was a big day a couple of weeks ago, 6 to 8 foot waves, got pummeled. But it was in that moment that everything just came back. And you're like, all right, just chill here, getting smashed. It's okay. And you come up and go, that was all right.
Yeah, the funny comparison is that in jiu-jitsu, I was quite comfortable having someone on my back trying to choke me, and because it wasn't water, I'd be like, this guy, a young guy who's a carpenter, strong, and he's on my back in backpack, and he's got to, I've just got to defend the neck. So he's going flat out on me, and I'm just sitting there protecting the neck, and then I've grabbed one of his arms so he can't extend and he can't do anything with it.
Yep.
And he's huffing and puffing, and then we get to sit out and watch the next people. And I'm sitting beside me, and he looks at me and he goes, "So what was your objective there?" And I said, "My objective is what the teacher told us to do. I was to defend, and if I could get a better position, I get a better position. You're trying to submit me. That's the objective."
Mm-hmm.
He goes, but really, what was going on? I said, "Okay, do you know how you were breathing?" "No fucking idea." I said, "You are like this. Do you know what I was breathing?" He goes, "I don't know." I said, "Well, I was just breathing through my nose. There wasn't any effort." And I said, "I also stopped your right arm, which is what you were going to choke me with, by just keeping this closed up, because you don't have the strength to push it out. Even though you're strong, and even though that you're a third of my age." He's like, "Yeah, well, that's a lot to think about though, isn't it?" I went, "Yeah, when you've been around the sun a few times, you'll realize that there's something more than just winning. There's how you win." And I said, "So for me, I was the person that you exactly are, all about just getting that done." I said, "But, we'll see how we go when I'm taking your neck." And he went, "What are you going to do?" I said, "You have to observe, because that's you'll learn." So in that school, no one could get my neck, not even the teacher. Good neck defense, apparently. And then my neighbor, who's a lovely guy, is an arborist. He
a strong dude.
He came into class, and we got paired up, and he got my neck, first person to choke me. And I went, "Okay, good." Very quiet about it. He's helpful as well. Good partner. The next week he comes in with doing the same thing. He goes to get my neck, and he goes, "We're going for 5 minutes." And he's like, "Fuck, you're good. That's different from last week." I said, "Yeah, well, once was enough. That's it." Live and learn. So, yeah.
Yeah. But, there's a lot to be said for that sort of level of skill acquisition, like handstand as an example. You start showing someone a handstand, they can only think of one thing at a time.
Yeah.
And you give them a couple of weeks, and they can maybe add in another 2 or 3 things that they can attention shift.
Yeah.
Same in jiu-jitsu, same in surfing, same in every pursuit.
Yeah. It's got to have that methodology behind it, though. If it's not, we see it a lot with yogis. "Oh, I want a handstand." So they have a handstand workshop, and then you got to wonder what they're doing outside of it, because all they're thinking about is getting up into this position.
Exactly.
Thinking about how it looks in that position, or how it feels in that position. So,
or as you said at the start of this conversation, what's the method? What's the process? Because that's so much more important than actually getting upright.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to use up too much more of your time. We've been chatting for 2 hours.
Cool.
And it has been epic.
Yeah.
If you have one point that you could share for anyone wanting to get into breath work or ice, cold exposure, what would that be?
I would evaluate how I breathe day to day, especially how you sleep, because one of the things that I always thought and made an excuse for was, I've been in the fighting game. I've had every tooth root canal, and I never looked at it as breathing, but basically it was. if you're poor breathing, so cut to the chase, I would probably look at functionality of your breathing.
Yeah, beautiful.
If you're going to look at the best example, which Patrick McEwen gives, Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is a mouth breather, and you cannot out-condition dysfunctional breathing.
No.
So he developed, or supposedly developed, McGregor fast, and that was what opened my eyes up, because I had done stuff and been able to do stuff which, if I had breathed better, I would be a different level,
Uh-huh.
completely different level. And I don't have regrets there because who I am was facilitated by what I was doing at that stage.
100%.
But now, yeah, anybody coming along, that's the big thing to look at. And children are great teachers because if they've had no sickness, then they'll just breathe through their nose.
Yes.
And they are better at learning. We say ADHD is this and that, and we should medicate. Most of them are mouth breathers.
Yes.
ADHD, you take ADHD kids and kids on the spectrum, and you control their diet and their food, quality food and nutrient dense food, and their breathing. Wow, it changes. It's huge. So I would look at functional breathing, oxygen advantage, Butanko, Patrick McKeown, very good. You've just got to get around his Irish way of saying the breath.
I love that. I love an Irish accent.
But a lovely guy and no ego. He's you can see how he's when I first met him, he was like, I don't know anything about social media, but he's now attached to some pretty interesting things in the world. And it is part of everything. So cold exposure, it's about breath,
Yeah. And you know what? Everything is. Everything should be first principle.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I say to everybody that I train. The breathing is your recording button for everything that you do. Everything good, bad, or indifferent is attached to a certain type of breathing. The more awareness that you bring to that, and the better you train it. So I would suggest for you, don't worry about Augusta Vegas. Go to apnea survival to Jason Rice. Have a look at his stuff.
Yeah, that was the guy. Yep.
And that's a game changer for me. One of the best teachers I've been in front of, and he's skin in the game. He's 55. Yep. He's a waterman. He's been a
legend.
Lifeguard. He surfs. He does everything in that respect. And he's learning about him as well. He's just been up to Solomon Islands, North Queensland, doing spearfishing in Solomon Islands and surfing. But he was in North Queensland. Went up there to do. There's up in the Atherton Table. Then there's a lake, freshwater lake, where they do free diving.
Yeah.
He went for a walk in the jungle to find this waterfall, and it's thick, overgrown. North Queensland jungle is a fucking horror story.
Yes, they are.
Full of leeches. He's got leeches all over him. And that's when you bring in the breathing, how to control the situation and not lose your shit. So it's life-saving stuff. That's for sure.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. I definitely feel like there is a lot more that we could unpack. So I'm going to request now that I get you back on, because this breathing stuff is something that I've been digging into for maybe 18 months, and I have seen so many physiological changes, sleep quality improving, endurance improving. I was playing with some stuff with my runs this week.
Yeah.
And just felt unstoppable. I'm doing it out in the surf. It's incredible stuff. So I very much appreciate your time and your knowledge.
Look forward to it. Look forward to part 2.
Yeah, man. And I'm going to come down and do some training with you at your next, next you've got coming on, because, what you've been doing is epic. I will include your Insta info and whatnot in the show notes.
If you put the breath practice one, not my private one.
Yep. Yeah. Breath practice. Beautiful. All right.
And the website is Hanu, HANAHANU.com.
And what does that mean?
Breath practice in Hawaiian.
Beautiful. Excellent. Love it.
Cheers,
Thank you so much for your time, man.
Pleasure.
That's awesome.
Look forward to the next one.
Yeah.
Look forward to seeing you. Actually, you come down. or either or. We'll come up there.
Yeah. Well, I'll keep an eye out. Are you posting your details on the breath practice, like what workshops and stuff you're doing, or just like let me know?
Here and there. I sort of stayed off social media for a bit at the moment. I was just
that's not a bad thing
for a while. So here and there I will for sure.
All right. Well, I'll keep my eyes out, and I'll let you know when I can get down. We'll do some training.
All right, buddy.
All right.
Take care.
Much love to you and Petra.
You too. Love you.
Take
Cheers,
care.
mate.